Growing up white in the slowly desegregating South, I always felt the optimistic sounds of Motown were more than just catchy, they were transformational. My aunt gave me my first transistor radio when I was very young, a small black box with one earphone and a wrist strap. At the time, African American music received limited airplay, but what I heard on that little radio I really liked. My elementary school was barely integrated, so listening to Motown and watching the artist on American Bandstand was a way for me to learn more about African American culture. Seeing people who looked different from me expressing themselves in such a captivating way broadened my interest in a wider world to see and experience. And watching soulful groups like the energetic Jackson 5 and the Chic Supremes perform in such colorful, of-the-moment looks furthered my budding interest in a fashion publishing career. As a teenager, I dreamed of moving to New York to pursue this goal, and I did just that a few years out of college, going on to work for Harper's Bazaar and Glamour. On a business trip in the 1990s, I finally had a chance to visit the birthplace of the music that seasoned the soundtrack of my youth, the Motown Museum. I was so moved by the experience. I wrote this essay later to honor the label's 50th anniversary and sent it to the museum's director. About 15 years ago, after a business meeting in Detroit, I made a long-awaited visit to 2648 West Grand Boulevard, the Motown Historical Museum, home to Hitsville, USA. Walking up the sidewalk toward that famous facade, I instantly stepped back in time. Inside, after studying an impressive array of artifacts, I suddenly found myself standing in the legendary Studio A, alone. Literally breathless, I was frozen in place as Motown's greatest hits played from oversized wooden speakers, filling the celebrated room with soft echoes of its past. This is where Michael auditioned, I thought incredulously, where Smokey, Diana, Marvin, and others recorded deep into the night, and where the Funk Brothers studio band crafted that distinctive Motown sound. Stepping into the control room, I noticed a primitive sound console, which recorded just 3 tracks. The original console only recorded 2. Ingenious sound effects were then patched into these tracks to create Motown magic. Thinking about the remarkable recordings produced by such rudimentary methods, my admiration grew for the indomitable men and women who generated a musical revolution from an ordinary house. Then, the most memorable sight of all caught my attention: a deeply worn groove in the wooden floor, the indelible mark of 13 years of sound engineers tapping their feet to the beat as they wrote history on vinyl. That groove signifies all that Motown was and is, bursting onto the scene in a very volatile decade and causing America, all of America, to jump to its collective feet. My visit to Studio A, with its inherent groove, was one of the most unforgettable experiences of my life. My thanks to Berry Gordy and the Motown artists and musicians for their incomparable contribution to the soundtrack of our lives. Additional thanks to Vanity Fair magazine for telling their story now, honoring half a century of the sound that united a nation. How fitting that 50 years to the month after Gordy founded Tamla Records, the wellspring of the Motown Record Corporation, our first African-American president will be inaugurated. Now, I think that calls for some real dancing in the street.